Hello and welcome to the 55th episode of BEM Podcast, the Psychic Eye Mystery Podcast. I'm your host, Victoria Laurie, here with my schmabulous co-host sister, Sandy. And we are coming to
Hello.
you from last day in May.
Yes,
After
finally.
2 weeks of just, right?
Yes. Mayhem.
Oh my God. You had the twins' graduation. My nephews
I did.
graduated. Beyond proud of them, beyond. And you looked so beautiful, Sandy. You looked so beautiful in the photos. So show everybody the photos.
What, did you let me share screen?
Yeah, no, I kept it. Well, of course I didn't. One moment while we figure this out.
Okay, are you good? Are you good?
I don't see anything.
Okay, well, 1 minute. This is fun.
That's why I'm entertaining people. Oh, there we go. Yay. The two boys.
Oops. Hold on. I just deleted it. Hold on. There we go.
You're so good at the technical. I love that dress on you.
Thank you.
It's funny because Matt, who's on the right, who's on Sandy's left, on our right, Sandy's left, it looks like he's in shorts. I'm assuming
he is.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't technically his graduation day, so I made him, his was the next day, so I made him put on his cap and gown, and he just threw it on because whatever. So yeah, so these are the twins that Victoria always refers to in the coached series, Matthew and Michael.
Maddie and Mike. Yep. My nephews. I'm their favorite aunt.
Yes, you are, for sure.
I don't care if I am or not. I just keep going around claiming it until people believe it. So
yeah, well, nobody else is writing books about them. So,
right. Or loving on them like I am. I love my nephews. They're wonderful. And then I launched See No Evil. So the 17th book in the Abby Cooper Psychic Eye mystery series is now live. And if you don't have your copy, go get it. There are 95 reviews already on Amazon. It's a 4.8 star. Yeah, so it's like right around 5 stars. People are loving it. And I love it when people are loving it. So they waited 3 years for it. I left them on a really evil cliffhanger. And they finally got the answers that they've been waiting for. The good news is, because I see this a lot in the reviews, hopefully we won't have to wait so long for the next book. You won't. You won't.
typey.
I know they get so mad. It's like, I love it. Don't make me wait.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. I won't make you wait. There are times where I'm like, misery. Anyway, so I've already outlined the next Abby. I will be starting that in July, and it should be finished and up and running September, October time period. So I have a great idea for the next one. So, and I'm writing another MJ holiday book for those of you who have for 10 years, for a decade, been asking me to write just one more. I'm writing another one. I came up with a good idea. And then I'm starting a new series with my publisher at Kensington. And I have another romantic romance, new adult novel in the works all as well. So,
and then you have a Coached coming out.
Yeah, and then there's another Spellbound. So
no, but there's also Coached is going to be published in
November. That's already there's so many books. That's coming out in November. So yeah, I know. My editor today sent me an email he's the editor on the Coached mystery series at Kensington. He's a great guy. And he has encouraged me to start a new series with them. And so I'm doing that, and I sent him out. He kind of knows generally what it's about. And today he sent me an email, and he's like, okay, I need cover ideas and title ideas. And do you have an illustrator? And like my creative brain is just so, I can't anymore. So I don't know. I don't know.
You see what fun I have here? Hey, can we record a podcast?
I'm busy. You're busy. So thank God Jim, who is the inspiration for Gilly, Jim is my literary agent, came to the rescue for me today. He always comes through. He's a great guy. So he's just like Gilly. Great sidekick. Love him. Love him, love him. And then anecdote, I actually have a kind of a cute anecdote that I think, Sands, you will really like. So I was reading for a woman last night, and her grandmother came through, and her grandmother was just so chatty. It was really wonderful. So her grandmother's there, and I can feel our grandmother
Really
present. Yeah. And so our grandmother emphasized her name, Ruth. So I asked my client, I said, is any female in your family, on your mom's side of the family, have an R initial name, first name? And, the wheels are turning, right? And I can see that she's like trying to find one and can't. And then Graham shows me Ruth and Margaret and goes like this, right? So I started explaining to my client, I said, what's interesting is my grandmother's name was Ruth Margaret, but my sister and I always call her Margaret. And my client's jaw drops and she goes, oh my gosh, she goes, my grandmother's name was Margaret Roseville, Rosanna, Margaret Rosanna or something like that. So the middle name was the R, but her first name was Margaret. So I'm like, oh, cool. And then, you know how Grammy left the china behind? Yep. So Grammy shows me this china, and she shows me the silver flatware that Ruth inherited, right? Our mother inherited. And so I asked my client, I said, do you have your grandmother's china or flatware? She's like, I have both.
nice.
Right. So it was so cool to sort of get these two grandmas together to sort of team up and help deliver the messages. I just loved that. I thought that was just so sweet.
Very neat.
Thank you, Grammy. Thank you. And thank you, Margaret, for my client. So that's my anecdote. Also, just want to let everybody know, I am currently working on predictions. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of ground to cover. There's some, really far reaching ones and some that are really close. So I'm going to cover as much as I possibly can. We're going to cover topics like the economy, politics, which is a big, not in a bad way, guys. The economy, politics, trends, medicine, innovations, energy, and then I'm going to devote a big section on AI, because nothing terrifies me more than AI. Honestly, nothing terrifies me more for like our longevity than AI. And I think the genie's out of the bottle and there's no pulling it back. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting the next couple of years. Let me tell you, a couple of decades, actually. So hopefully you and I will be like long gone by the time the cyborgs.
I keep hoping, but yet I'm still here. So, yeah,
we can take care of that.
Yeah.
So now everybody's caught up, and we are covering. This is a good one. I like this one. So over to you, Sands. Take it away.
Okay. So today's case is about Adnan Syed, who has been in and out of prison for the murder of his girlfriend, Hae Min Lee. This is a protracted case that started with the 1999 conviction of Adnan Syed for murdering his ex-girlfriend, Hae Min Lee, and it became internationally famous in 2014 through the true crime podcast Serial. After multiple appeals to overturn his 2003 conviction, a Baltimore court set Adnan Syed free on September 19, 2022. Then late last month, actually 2 months ago, on March 28, 2023, a Maryland appeals court reinstated Syed's murder conviction, and so the controversy surrounding his guilt or innocence for the murder of his ex-girlfriend continues. Born on May 21st, 1981 in Baltimore, Maryland, into a conservative Muslim family to parents Shaman and Syed Rahim, Adnan was the middle son to older brother Tanvir and younger brother Yusuf. While attending Woodlawn High School, Adnan was a straight-A student, played on the varsity football team, and was crowned homecoming prom king. To earn extra cash, he worked part-time for a paramedic service. It was while attending Woodlawn that he met Hae Min Lee. She was born October 15, 1980, and she emigrated from South Korea in 1982 with her mother, Yoon, and brother, Young Lee, to live with their grandparents. The accomplished and popular student was a member of both the lacrosse and field hockey teams, and she managed the boys' wrestling team. Given that Adnan and Hae Min were from conservative immigrant families, the teens were discreet about their relationship. However, the secrecy purportedly frustrated Hae Min, which led to the couple's breakup. With aspirations of becoming an optician, she took a job working at a local lens crafters, and it was there that she met and began dating Don Kleindus. On January 13, 1999, 18-year-old Hae Min was reported missing by her family after failing to pick up her younger cousin from daycare. She had last been seen by fellow Woodlawn students at 2:15 that afternoon. The police searched for the missing teen, and they questioned Adnan Syed, who stated that the last time he had seen his former girlfriend was around the time that classes had ended. Police also reached out to Don Kleindust, who informed them that he had arrived home at 7 p.m. that evening. 4 weeks later, on February 9th, Hae Min's half-buried body was discovered in a makeshift grave by Alonzo Selliers as he was passing through Baltimore's Leakin Park, and the autopsy concluded that she had died of manual strangulation. During the police investigation into her murder, detectives received an anonymous tip that they should look into Adnan Syed. They also interviewed Jay Wilds, who at the time had more than 20 run-ins with the police, including aggravated assault against a former girlfriend. Under supposed pressure by the Baltimore police, Wilds struck a deal claiming that he had helped Adnan bury Hae Min in Lincoln Park. 6 weeks after her body had been discovered, 17-year-old Adnan Syed was arrested on February 29th, 1999, and charged with kidnapping and murder of his former girlfriend. His first murder trial began in December 1999, but ended in mistrial 3 days later when jurors overheard a sidebar conversation between Adnan's defense attorney and the presiding judge. During the 6-week trial that began in January of 2000, the largely circumstantial case centered around Jay Wilds' testimony. According to Wilds, Adnan was angry that Hae Min had broken up with him and murdered her out of revenge. Corroborating testimony by Wilds' girlfriend, Jennifer Pusardi, and cell tower records confirmed in part Wilds' timeline of events on the night of Hae Min's murder, which helped prosecutors to convince the jury to find Adnan guilty. On February 25, 2000, a little over a year after her body had been discovered, Adnan Syed was found guilty of first-degree murder, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and robbery. That day, he was sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years. Syed's family fired his defense attorney, Christina Gutierrez. On March 19, 2003, Adnan filed his first appeal to overturn his conviction, but was unsuccessful. 7 years later, on May 28, 2010, he filed his second appeal on the basis of ineffective assistance of counsel. In his petition, he claimed that his attorney, Christina Gutierrez, did not pursue an alibi witness, Asia McCain, who was with Adnan at the Woodlawn High School library at the time of Hae Min's murder. The petition also noted the unreliability of the cell tower records presented into evidence in the original trial. Further, since Adnan's conviction, Jay Wilds has changed his story multiple times, and analysis of his police interviews suggests that he had been heavily coached by the Baltimore police. Adnan's appeal was once again denied. The judge ruled that attorney Gutierrez's decision not to call Asa McClain, as a witness was part of her defense strategy rather than an act of incompetence, as Asia's statement in part contradicted Adnan's own account of the day in question and did not include the specific time that she saw Adnan in the Woodlawn library. 4 years later, on October 3rd, 2014, the first podcast season of Serial launched with a focus on Adnan Syed's case and the murder of Hae Min Lee. By June of 2016, the podcast had been downloaded more than 100 million times, raising national awareness and new questions about Adnan's murder conviction. On February 6, 2015, the Maryland Court of Appeals approved his application for a potential hearing on the admissibility of the alibi testimony of Asia McClain. On May 18th, the case was sent to the Circuit Court for Baltimore City, and on August 24th, 2015, Adnan's lawyer, C. Justin Brown, filed a motion that the cell tower evidence used by prosecutors was misleading and therefore should not have been admitted at the original trial. On June 30th, 2016, Adnan's request for a new trial was granted, and his conviction was vacated after finding that Christina Gutierrez rendered ineffective assistance when she failed to cross-examine the state's expert regarding the reliability of the cell tower location evidence. However, Adnan was denied bail while the prosecution pursued their appeal. In 2018, the retrial decision was upheld. However, a year later, Maryland's highest court rejected the lower court's decision by a vote of 4-3, denying Adnan Syed a retrial, concluding that regardless of the shortcomings of Adnan's legal counsel, The evidence presented in his appeal would not have altered the jury's decision to convict. In November of 2019, the U.S. Supreme Court also denied hearing Adnan Syed's case, leaving the Maryland court's decision in place. 23 years following his conviction for kidnapping and murdering Hae Min Lee, on September 19, 2022, Baltimore City Court Judge Melissa Finn vacated 41-year-old Adnan Syed's conviction and set him free. The judge's decision came after prosecutors informed the court that in light of new evidence, DNA testing conducted of physical evidence recovered from the murder scene did not match Adnan's DNA, and violations in the government's turning over evidence that they had lost faith in the Syed's conviction. The Baltimore City attorney then announced that her office is seeking a new trial after a nearly year-long investigation, which revealed 2 new possible suspects. On October 11, 2022, prosecutors formally dropped all charges against Adnan Syed, eliminating the possibility of a retrial. In December of 2022, Adnan began a full-time job as a program associate for the Georgetown University's Prison and Justice Initiative. Part of his duties include supporting an undergraduate class called Making an Exoneree, in which students seek to help free innocent people in prison by examining their cases and creating documentaries. On March 28, 2023, a Maryland appeals court reinstated Adnan Syed's murder conviction after ruling that a lower court did not give Hae Min Lee's family sufficient notice. Her brother, Young Lee, only received 1 day's notice to attend the hearing on the state's motion to vacate the conviction. In a 2-to-1 decision, the appellate court ruled that this violated state law and the rights of the family and ordered that a new hearing be held. Per Eric J. Suter, Adnan's attorney, the appellate court of Maryland has reinstated Adnan's convictions, not because the motion to vacate was erroneous, but because Ms. Lee's brother did not appear in person at the vacator hearing. The judges stated that their obligation to correct the lower court's violation, as long as we can do so without violating Mr. Syed's right to be free from double jeopardy, we can do that, and accordingly we vacate the circuit court's order vacating Mr. Syed's convictions, which results in the reinstatement of the original convictions and sentence, the ruling said. For the time being, Adnan remains a free man and is not required to be reincarcerated prior to the new hearing. He is planning to appeal the decision to the Maryland Supreme Court, and his attorney and family remain optimistic that justice will be served. My sources for this include CBS Baltimore, From Conviction to Freedom, a timeline of Adnan Syed's case by Adam Thompson, 10/11/22. CBS News, Adnan Syed's conviction reinstated by Maryland Appellate Court, 3/28/23. Biography, Adnan Syed is a Muslim American man who was convicted of murdering his ex-girlfriend, Hae Min Lee, in 1999. His protracted case became internationally famous through the podcast Serial in 2014 by Colin McAvoy and Yudi Pak. 3/29/23. Wikipedia, The Murder of Hae Min Lee. And those are my sources. So it's, we're jumping into this very, very late considering how much time has been devoted to this particular case, but I don't know if people have necessarily concluded one way or another whether or not Adnan Syed was actually guilty of killing his girlfriend or not.
It's such, even I was like, oh, shit, I don't know. Here's the deal. If you go and read the interview that was done in 2014 with Jay Wilds, I forget what who the interviewer, it's like Interceptor or something. It's like a website called Interceptor. And you read the interview, it is compelling. It is plausible and compelling. But so after reading that, I'm like, well, shit, did he do it? Because you and I both didn't feel he did, right? Initially, I'm like, he didn't do it. So after reading the interview with Jay Wilds, I went and just sat, and I'm like, okay, so who killed her? And I kept getting a heavy-set, kind of middle-aged, maybe not middle-aged, heavy-set man in his like late 30s, maybe mid to late 30s. I don't feel that he knew Hae Min. I feel that he saw an opportunity and he took it. And I know she was at a Best Buy, right? Something about a Best Buy.
Hold on.
I don't think it's in the story. I think it was in the Jay Wilds interview. So if you didn't hear about it since, I'm not sure. I think her car was originally at a Best Buy and then was put someplace else, or that's Jay Wilds' story, is that her car was originally in a parking lot and her body was in her car, and Jay had Adnan's car and cell phone. He had dropped Jay off. He had dropped Aiden off. Adnan did not tell him what he was doing or what he was about to do. Supposedly, he calls Jay to come pick him up. Jay goes to pick him up and he gets in the car. He's like, well, I did it. I murdered her. I killed her. And so I'm like, no, these two like barely knew each other, you know. The only connection was that Jay supposedly was selling weed to the kids at school, right? And so anytime Adam wanted weed, he would get hooked up by Jay, but they weren't friends. And so this whole, he let me borrow his car, he let me borrow his cell phone. I'm like, did he? Does that sound like something a high school
No,
would do? Like, it just doesn't. That just, it feels made up. It feels contrived. And then, but the way he's kind of unfolding the story is super compelling. But if you go back over it and you just kind of look at it from the standpoint of a kid in high school, right? So part of the testimony that Jay is giving in the interview is about his assessment of Adnan. God, I can't pronounce this poor young man's name or gentleman's name. And he's like, well, he struck me as this kind of individual who was under so much pressure, and he was, on the verge of snapping, and I didn't know where the pressure was coming from, but he always had to be a winner. And so when she was indifferent to him and went off and started seeing someone else, he couldn't control his rage. And I'm like, you sold this guy weed and you know all of this about him? I was a pretty sensitive kid in high school. I didn't know shit about anybody else. I was more consumed with myself.
Yeah.
Right. Because let's face it, kids in high school are narcissists. They're always thinking about themselves. They're really not paying attention to what's going on psychologically in the minds of other kids. So again, this feels like contrived. It just doesn't feel real. And the fact that he's changed his story over and over and over again, and there's really no consistency. And the fact that you can tell he's been coached just because of some of the answers that he was giving the interviewer. It's like, that just doesn't sound original. That sounds regurgitated. That sounds repetitive. That's just not the way it would go. But he is a fantastic storyteller. And I truly think it was the fact that he was a really, really good storyteller that sealed the deal with Adam's
conviction.
Yeah.
Well, but at the end of the day, DNA evidence kind of proved that Adnan was not there.
It wasn't him.
So
it wasn't him. So I think that I've been scouring the interwebs looking for the two suspects that they are investigating. I believe strongly one of them is a much stronger candidate than the other one. I don't know if the two knew each other. It doesn't feel like they did. But I think they're closing in on who actually murdered her. The problem is, if you are a defense attorney, well, they've already convicted one guy of this, and now they want to come after my client. It's like they just can't get the pin the tail on the donkey. I mean, you just, boom, reasonable doubt right there. Boom.
Yep.
So the prosecution definitely has an uphill battle, which is probably why they haven't mentioned anybody's name, and they're kind of keeping a really tight lid on this because they know they've fucked up essentially, so they're on an uphill climb. I don't know that anybody is going to necessarily be held accountable. I do feel there'll be a trial. It's a 50-50, it's a crapshoot. Honestly, it's a crapshoot whether or not they get a conviction, honestly, because they're not going to get a confession ever.
No.
So,
no.
So I'm with you. I don't believe he did it. Just doesn't ring my intuitive bell. It's compelling evidence against him if you believe Jay. But
again, it's all circumstantial and hearsay, really.
Right.
Hearsay of an unreliable witness.
Right.
And Adnan spent a big chunk of his life behind bars for something he didn't do.
Right.
And I know Hae Min Lee's family is determined to see Adnan Syed pay for the death of their relative, but
right, because they're convinced.
Yeah.
So, and it just makes you feel really bad for that whole family. You know, she was
for
by all
everybody. I
accounts
mean,
an accomplished, sweet young woman. You know, with places to go, people to do, things to see, things to
well,
accomplish.
actually, both of them were, right?
Yeah,
He was a football
exactly.
star, prom king,
Right.
and he was studying to be a paramedic, and
Mhm.
he's still devoting himself to service.
Exactly.
I'm not
Yeah.
trying to make him out to be an angel, but it's
He
frustrating
really
that
could have been those Sands. He honestly could have been just a really decent guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you have two minorities that are being kind of railroaded through the system.
But in 1999, especially,
Yeah.
especially in the year subsequent after 2011 or 2001, right? If you were Muslim, you were considered basically just terrorists walking around the United States plotting against it. You know, so he fit the xenophobia, I think, pretty well of any jury trying to convict. So unfortunate, really unfortunate. So I did want to quickly mention, when I talked about I'm working on every 6 months I do biannual predictions. Every 6 months I do sort of national global predictions, big predictions. My track record's pretty good. Not to toot my own horn. Toot, toot. But I am putting those on a platform called Patreon. Subscription will cost you $2.50. But there's a lot of other really terrific stuff on that platform from me. So there's that new Dear Victoria, where you can write to me and tell me of a dilemma you're going through and you need some intuitive advice, and I will tell you what I see. And then there are some, guided meditations, and I will start putting up my predictions in the next couple of days. So I'll put a link in.
So did you even look at my Dear Victorias that I've written? Because I've written like 7 of them, and
yeah, I just, they're so whiny, Sandy. I just
delete.
another one from this one, the drama queen. I roll. Oh, again,
delete. Watch
again
this.
with this.
Delete. Yeah.
My sister doesn't pay enough attention to me. Wah, wah, wah. Delete. Kidding.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's
Not
what I
me.
read. It was inferred. Hilarious. Anyway, so I will put a link to the Patreon page up on this thing, up on YouTube, up on Spotify, up on the thing, and in the description. You know how I am with English, with words.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, God, I get up, the camera points at me. I'm like, so fun with me. Fun. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being so patient with us while we sorted through all of the busy stuff we have on our schedule. It's insane what we have on our schedule, Sans. Like, it's just nuts. And God love you for continuing to mine the true crime genre out there for new cases. I don't know where you find the time, because I know how busy you are, and I know how insane I am. So insanely busy I am. So God love you for taking the time, devoting that, because I know these take about a day or two to write up. So thank you.
Yeah, we have a really interesting case coming up that is a historical case, and
Right?
Yeah, it's very intriguing.
You
very
sent
intriguing.
it to me, and I kind of just looked at it like really briefly, and I went, ugh.
Yeah,
it's creepy. It's creepy.
Very creepy. Very creepy. Yeah, for sure. So even don't get
wait
put off
to
by the
dive
fact that
into
it's a
that one.
historical case, right? It's definitely compelling. So
Let's just say there was an axe involved.
And it wasn't Lizzie Borden.
Yeah, we should do that too. Okay, so for everybody asking me, will you do Lizzie Borden? Here's the deal. I believe that Lizzie did murder her
I will
parents.
write it up. Just stop.
Oh, you're gonna do it? I didn't know
I'll
you were
write it
gonna
up.
do it. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, then I'll give my insight, because she didn't do it alone. So anyway, love you, love you, love you.
Love you too.
Bye, everybody. We'll see
Thank you all
next week.
next time. Okay.
Okay. Bye.